Welcome back to Pixel Peak, your go-to show on App TV for video game industry news.
It's good to be on stage with you for the first time this season, Bobby.
Oh yeah, that means Jean-Luc is trapped in the editorial section of the show again.
He'll get through it a second time. I mean, we all got through it once.
I don't know, I lost my beard in there.
I knew something was different about you in the second episode.
It will be missed, just like the Razer Game Store will be when it goes offline at the end of the month.
And the PS Vita, which is ending production in Japan.
And Reggie Fils-Aimé, who's retiring from Nintendo and being replaced by Bowser.
All of that and more in this week's news, but we've got even more in this week's editorial, where we'll go in depth about why big-budget zombie games are suddenly popping up in 2019.
And in this week's analysis, we're sitting down with our producer and Xbox analyst, Kyle Presley, to talk about Xbox GamePass and the future of subscription services for games.
And you'll just have to wait and see what our loot is in the return of Pixel Peak GoldMine.
We've got a lot to get into, so let's get started. I'm Bobby Eggins.
And I'm Kristen Lawrence, and we hope you enjoy your stay here
on Pixel Peak.
Before Activision Blizzard officially announced last week's layoffs, rumors have been circulating that the company would terminate a percentage of its employees for months. The specifics of the layoffs were up in the air, but they were almost assuredly coming down the pipe, leaving employees in limbo, unable to seek new employment, but also unsure of their job security. The same situation is now in play for Blizzard's French office, where layoffs have been announced, but without any details as to who will be affected. When Blizzard's restructuring began, the French office was told that 134 of its positions were to be eliminated. But because of the country's labor laws, no one knows whether or not they will be included in that number. These labor laws give people the opportunity to prepare for the incoming job loss, but the lack of an announcement leaves employees unsure as to which operations will be cut back and what kind of severance they will see. In a text message to Kotaku's Jason Schreier, one Versailles employee said, "No one knows any details, and this is taking a big hit on the morale of the folks over here. Not knowing if you will be laid off in a few weeks or months sucks, and many people here are already updating their LinkedIn because they want to be prepared for when they will be told what will happen exactly."
In an open letter posted on Kotaku on the 15th, Liz Schuler, Secretary-Treasurer of the American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Organizations, pressed games industry workers to unionize. The AFL-CIO represents over 50 unions and 12 million workers across the United States, and after the past few years of labor concerns in the industry, it decided to reach out and encourage unionization in games. The letter referenced specific instances from the past that could see change with organization, like the workplace conditions around the development of Red Dead Redemption 2. Schuler also mentioned the disparity between the benefits that executives and developers see, name-dropping Activision's Bobby Kotick and EA's Andrew Wilson. In the letter, Schuler said, "This is a moment for change. It won't come from CEOs, it won't come from corporate boards, and it won't come from any one person. Change will happen when you gain leverage by joining together in a strong union. And it will happen when you use your collective voice to bargain for a fair share of the wealth you create every day."
Steam had plenty of competitors before the launch of the Epic Game Store back in December, and popular gaming accessories manufacturer Razer was one of them. The Razer Game Store, known for selling keys to Steam and Uplay games, has seen little use since its launch in April of last year because it's not its own PC gaming client. Even though the store is still in beta, 10 months later, Razer announced that it would be shutting down the store on February 28th. Alongside the announcement, a FAQ page was put on the store's website to quell any concerns users had with the service closing. According to the FAQ, the store is shutting down because of Razer's realignment plans, which will also include a loss of 2% of the company's workforce, only adding to the game industry's layoff pandemic. Users of the service have no need to worry though. Any game keys purchased by users will still be redeemable, pre-orders will still be honored, and Razer Silver points earned from purchasing games will still be usable after the store closes. Members of Razer Gold were also reassured by the company that their subscription would not go unutilized. On Razer's website, a spokesperson said, "We will be investing in other ways to deliver great content and introduce game promotions through Razer Gold, our virtual credit system." Although fans of Razer can no longer expect a potential third competitor to Steam, they can still expect colorful RGB lighting on all their other products.
In their second year of operations, EVO Japan, a companion event to the EVO Championship Series, had to shut down their Twitch stream because of a Dead or Alive 6 promotional segment. It was inappropriate use of free camera controls, female hosts mimicking the infamous Dead or Alive jiggle physics, and suggestive poses from models Saki Yoshida and Yuka Kuromochi that led Twitch chat participants to report the stream for violating Twitch terms of service. EVO business developer and commentator Mark Julio later apologized on stream for the Dead or Alive segment, and EVO co-founder Joey Cuellar also apologized in a tweet, saying that the stream was ended to protect the integrity of the EVO brand. What's more interesting about this incident is that developers Team Ninja and Koei Tecmo have consistently marketed the game as less suggestive since its reveal last June. Designer Yohei Shimbori has even said that DOA 6 is moving towards something more appropriate for mainstream esports, and that approach might change up their currently established fanbase. However, with the recent events at EVO Japan, the true nature of the game is back up in the air, where it will remain until the game's release on March 1st.
It's only been a few weeks since we mentioned that PlayStation Plus would be ending its offering of PS Vita games. But now we're bringing you the final nail in the coffin for the system. According to the PlayStation Japan website, both PS Vita models will be discontinued in the coming weeks. The original handheld saw a release shortly before the PS4 in 2011, and received a slim upgrade 2 years later, but was still a flop when competing against Nintendo's immensely successful 3DS. The Vita sold 18 million units at most worldwide, while every other major platform sold at least 70 million units, despite the PS Vita being praised among critics for its hardware and impressive on-the-go performance. Disappointing sales and marketing efforts put the Vita on the back burner as early as 2017, when upcoming PlayStation boss Jim Ryan said the handheld was not actively being worked with outside of Japan. Despite being PlayStation's weakest asset, games like Super Meat Boy and Shovel Knight King of Cards are seeing release on the platform this year, and several dozen Japanese-only titles are still scheduled to launch through PSN. Although the actual manufacturing of Vitas has come to an end, those with a Vita will still be able to utilize its PS4 mirroring feature and see PSN releases. So maybe it's not entirely dead after all, just, mostly dead.
On Wednesday, the NPD Group shared data about January's game sales in the United States. The organization found that, despite a lineup that included Resident Evil 2 Remake, Kingdom Hearts 3, and New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, game sales dipped just under 20% compared to January 2018. Last January saw sales of around $1.1 billion in sales, in part because of the release of two of last year's biggest games, Monster Hunter World and Dragon Ball FighterZ, which brought the month to its highest sales numbers since 2011. The only publisher that saw an increase this month was Nintendo, which could lean on New Super Mario Bros. U and the continued success of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This drop comes just after both EA and Activision both reported underwhelming sales in the previous financial year, and this may be because the attention economy has peaked, according to Media, a media and technology analysis company. Gaming is now competing with streaming movies, music, television, and even other gamers on YouTube and Twitch. In posts from January and February, Media author Carol Severin has suggested that the industry will need to improve its competitiveness in the attention economy or face a decline in growth over time.
At PlayStation's E3 presentation last year, developer of Little Big Planet, Media Molecule, showed off their newest project called Dreams. Since then, the developer has hosted closed betas for select players, but now it's finally being opened up to the public in a fashion similar to Steam's early access program. As a bonus, those who purchase the early access version of the game can get it for $30, which, from what we know about the game so far, is a steal. Like their previous IP, players can utilize Dreams as level creation tools to create levels for others to play through. Unlike Little Big Planet, however, Dreams has also been utilized as a creative medium for all sorts of artists, from two-dimensional illustrators to filmmakers. Possibilities for player creations are literally endless, as Dreams includes a built-in camera manipulator, music composer, input recorder, and many more tools for artists to materialize their imaginations. At a price of $30, it sure beats buying art supplies or paying for software subscriptions for the creative minds out there.
On Thursday, Reggie Fils-Aimé, president of Nintendo of America and beloved gaming icon, announced that he would be retiring after 15 years of working at the company. Fils-Aimé first made waves at E3 in 2004 when he gave a now famous introduction speech saying, "My name is Reggie. I'm about kicking ass, I'm about taking names, and we're about making games." The executive has been a fan favorite ever since, but said this week that his last day at the House of Mario will be April 15th, after which the aptly named head of sales and marketing, Doug Bowser, will take over. In a press release, Bowser said, "It has been my great fortune to work with and be mentored by Reggie for 4 years at Nintendo of America. Rest assured, we will continue to build on his work to evolve and expand our brand, furthering Nintendo's global mission of creating smiles. There are millions more of those to come." We're losing a legend in the industry this spring, but from all of us here at PixelPeak, we say thank you, Reggie, for all you've done for the industry. From kicking ass and taking names to declaring that your body is ready for Wii Fit, nothing was ever boring when you were around. Bowser has big shoes to fill moving forward, but the name's a pretty good start. And now, on to analysis. In the wake of so many game releases this spring, some gamers are opting for subscription services over purchasing individual titles. Here we have Xbox analyst and producer Kyle Presley to give us some details on Xbox Game Pass. Kyle, thanks for being here.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure.
So my first question is, for those unfamiliar, can you tell us a little bit about Game Pass, what it is, who it's by?
Yeah, so Xbox Game Pass is Microsoft's subscription-based gaming service, sort of similar to Sony's PlayStation Now, but there are some differences which I'll get into later on. But essentially what it is for $10 a month you get about access to 200 or so Xbox 360, and Xbox One titles. That does include Xbox Play Anywhere titles, which are titles that you can play both on your console or on any Windows 10 enabled device.
So, what makes Game Pass unique in the game industry?
So the difference between Game Pass, what really sets it apart is it's not directly competing with individual game releases, which is a common misconception that people tend to think about. For example, when you go out to a store and you see the price tag for a brand new game, that's not actually something that Microsoft is looking to compete with Game Pass. It's more of a long-term sort of venture in this case, in the fact that since you're paying monthly for it, it's actually more of a competitor to Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime Video, in the fact that you're paying that lump sum per month to get access to a wide variety of titles. The other thing that sort of separates it is it's different from Sony's PlayStation Now in the fact that it's not a streaming service really at all. You download the games directly to your console instead of streaming them, so you don't have to worry about like bandwidth issues, unless you're downloading, of course. Yeah, that's the big separation.
So what is the benefit for players who get Game Pass?
There are a lot of benefits. Of course, one of the biggest ones is the fact that they get the games directly on their system. They don't have to be online constantly to play them and to access them. And Xbox Game Pass does have, from what I know, the largest library as far as subscription services go, especially in comparison to Sony's PlayStation Now subscription. The other thing, as I mentioned before, is the Xbox Play Anywhere. So players that have access to both an Xbox console or a Windows 10 device can play select first-party titles from Microsoft, both on their console and on a Windows 10 connected device. So it's really just all about accessibility and convenience in this case. And I think that Game Pass has executed that pretty well, and it gives players a really big benefit in those aspects.
So, how has the success of Game Pass helped Microsoft?
It's helped it in a lot of ways, but I would say definitely the biggest way that it's benefited Microsoft has been their first-party titles finally getting some recognition, getting some gameplay. I mean, if we look in the past, games like Sea of Thieves and State of Decay and even Crackdown haven't had as good of responses as, let's say, Sony's recent release of Spider-Man or God of War. As far as the first-party support goes, Microsoft hasn't really had that strong audience, love that Sony has, and I really think that Game Pass is giving players an opportunity to finally discover those games, and it's just giving them, like I said, accessibility and opportunity to finally play those that they may not have gotten before.
So you did mention Netflix. Do you think this is going to go that same route where it might maybe not put stores out of business, like an unfortunate movie rental place I could mention, but do you think that this is the future of gaming?
I do, actually. I think that, just from what you had mentioned with Netflix, I think people really enjoy this whole, one lump sum, give me everything I can get at once and let me choose, rather than going out, and paying, an exorbitant price for a single game. I think this is the future, both in the aspect of downloading the games directly and having them available on multiple devices is a really good way to go. And I think that that's going to be what we see a lot from other game developers and systems alike.
So Sony has PS Now. Microsoft now has Game Pass. Do you think other companies will be soon following suit?
I definitely think that will be the case. There are rumors circulating now that Xbox and Microsoft are looking to expand Xbox Live and its accessories, Game Pass included, to other devices. Those, of course, are just rumors, so take those with a grain of salt. But I think that, with this being so, widely and well received by so many players, I think it would be, a missed opportunity not to expand it to all of the available ports and and companies that they can get their hands on, because gaming is all about this accessibility and opportunity thing, and if you give players these opportunities, they're going to take advantage of it, and I definitely think that that's the future of gaming.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for being here today, and now we'll send it to Jean-Luc for this week's editorial.
With the release of Resident Evil 2's remake, and with the quickly approaching Dying Light 2 and Days Gone, we're seeing the reanimation of the declining zombie game concept after almost a decade. The surge in popularity of the genre started when The Walking Dead premiered on AMC and brought with it the Telltale series, but it first found its roots in the mid to late 2000s when the Dead Rising and Left 4 Dead franchises released. The trends seemed to begin to wane around 2014, with fewer and fewer titles seeing the light of day. So why the resurgence now? The truth is, zombie games haven't been dying, they've just been lying dormant. Like zombies. Killing zombies is far from a new concept though, and the pastime is certainly older than the zombie apocalypse genre that saturated the market with brands just a few years ago. The oldest notable release was Ghosts and Goblins, which saw launch on the Commodore 64 and NES, and was worthy enough to be included on the NES Classic that released in late 2016. After Ghosts and Goblins' debut, other games with similar concepts started to emerge, like Doom and Resident Evil in the early to mid-90s. It was these two games that really drew people into the genre, unless you were an arcade nut and preferred something like Sega's The House of the Dead, and it was because they were popular enough to spawn their own series. Doom and Doom 2 were extremely popular on Microsoft Windows and MS-DOS, selling over 2 million copies total back when computers were often one per household. Despite the franchise name, Doom 3 failed to capitalize on the success of its predecessors, and mediocre gameplay and forgettable environments forced the series into dormancy until the Doom reboot in 2016. The hugely popular Resident Evil series has also seen a dip in continuity and cohesion over the years. It seemed like the games were getting better and better back during its peak in the early 2000s, but then Resident Evil 5 happened. The series was losing its identity, and even though Resident Evil 7 Biohazard saw both critical and financial success in 2017, it made longtime fans a little confused about where the series was going. So, zombie-centric plots have always been around. They just keep dying and coming back. The genre was popping up in 2019 because of hype for Dying Light, Days Gone, and DayZ, but the reason doesn't lie in nostalgia or an established franchise. It does so in technological advancement. Development on Dying Light 2, Days Gone, and even The Last of Us Part 2 are mostly based in a few things: choices, an open world, and hyperrealism. For a game to be drastically changed every time the player makes a decision, a lot of disk space is needed, which is more limited in the days of the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Open worlds were hard to optimize with older hardware, which is why games that attempted it and succeeded with it, like Grand Theft Auto 4, Red Dead Redemption, and The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, saw overwhelming success. Now we see them popping up left and right, mostly because of evolved game hardware. The same goes for hyperrealism. Zombies can look more gruesome than ever on new hardware, and fear can be expressed on character models with much more authenticity than what was possible with previous game technology. It was the possibilities that game developers of zombie games saw in systems like the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X that led to this return of big-budget, zombie-centric titles. Just as entertainment creators and console manufacturers are always looking toward the future of their medium, game developers are doing the same. So it's not just that zombie games are making a return, they're also going to be better than ever because of the ambitious minds that make them. And now, reviewer Logan Berg has something out of this world for us in this week's GoldMine.
GoldMine.
Captain's log, GM02. We've found ourselves floating adrift in the darkness of space. Our trajectory. Straight towards this segment's game of focus, 60 parsecs. 60 Parsecs is a dark sci-fi comedy choose-your-own-adventure game by robot gentlemen set place just before the destruction of planet Earth. But luckily for you, you're aboard a space station with a minute on the clock to prepare. Literally. Every game begins the same way. You have 60 seconds to go grab as many useful items as you can, whether that's a can of soup or a crewmate. Item management is the pillar of 60 Parsecs, integral to not simply staying alive day by feeding your crew, but also in securing your passage to a safe world by completing puzzles. Every day you're met with an event, most of which are random, and they may be solved in various ways, either relying on your chosen captain's attributes or items you hopefully have. As the game progresses, you gain access to your crafting and exploration modules, which must be fully utilized to ensure you keep up with the stress of your journey. And that journey will take you to multiple possible planets. Take this one, Mootopia. As you scout, you learn more about the quirks of your discovered world, information you may need to keep tabs on for your escape. Just the same, be careful of hazards, which can leave your crew in various sorts of trouble. Be warned though, your jaunt through space will not be so simple, and you may find out for yourself that in space, no one can hear you scream.
That wraps up today's episode of Pixel Peak.
I hope Jean-Luc made it out. It took me all week last time.
Well, if he does make it out, he'll be heading next week's episode with me.
True, but he wouldn't be in there if it weren't for our fantastic crew.
Thanks to writers Max Stein and Tanner Mizelle, reviewer Logan Berg, producer and Xbox analyst Kyle Presley, and producer Caitlin Halley for making this episode unlike any other.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at PixelPeak App TV. You can also catch us on App TV and YouTube Saturdays at 2 p.m.
Thanks so much for watching, and we hope you enjoyed your stay here
on Pixel Peak.